the seemingly paradoxical claim that something can be right on the surface and yet hard to see, right? So like there are things that are because it's, and again, this seems to justify the expectation held by, I would think, the vast majority of people who get interested in these, spiritual things, for lack of a better word, that the truth must somehow be deep within, right? Like there's really there's some distance between between the one who is looking and the thing that has to be found, right? And you have to go through this long evolution of changes. I mean, there are many metaphors that set this up. It's like you're at the base of a mountain and you have to climb to the top. And so you have to find the path, however circuitous, to get you there. But there really is a distance between between your starting point and the goal. And what I'm arguing, and this is a kind of a non-dual, to use a term of jargon, this is a non-dual approach to meditation as opposed to a dualistic one, that there really is the path and the goal are coincident, right? That that you have to unravel the logic by which you would seek something that's outside of the present moment's experience, i.e. really not available to you now, because so many things worth having, so many skills worth acquiring really are not available to you now. It's like if you want to be a pianist, or if you want to speak Chinese, or if you want there's something you don't know, and then you want to learn that thing, and there's a whole process, right? And you might not be capable of doing it, right? You might, and real mastery is far away, right? If you've never hit a golf ball, and you want to hit a golf ball 300 yards straight, right? I can pretty much guarantee you're not going to do that initially, and you're not going to do it, on day 2, and you're not going to do it reliably for the longest time. And there's real training, in front of you to be able to do that reliably. And really, the core insight, I mean, the insight that is the core of the Buddha's teaching, to take one historical example of this, really is available now. And it is not, I mean, granted, it can be very hard won for people. I mean, I had probably spent a year on silent retreat in 1 week to 3 month increments before I sort of got the point I'm making now, right? So it's I mean, literally, and these are retreats where you spend 12 to 18 hours a day just meditating, trying to unpack the kinds of claims I'm making now. So it's possible to rigorously overlook this. It's possible to stand in front of the mind's eye image and stare in a way that is guaranteed not to give you pop out, right? And to be adept at staring in that way. So it's possible to be misled. And so what I'm trying to argue here is that there's a fair amount of leverage you can get with better information, which can kind of cut the time course of your searching for this thing and kind of cancel your false expectations about just where this is in relation to your ordinary waking consciousness. And it's possible to get bad information and to have a bunch of experiences. You go and do an ayahuasca trip, and it's incredibly valuable. And it's valuable for all the ways in which it changed the contents of your consciousness in startling ways. And you had insights into your past and into your relationships and into why you're not as loving as you might be. And there's lots to think about. And you're like, okay, that's all great. That's all something that we can talk about. But it truly is orthogonal. I mean, if it makes a point of contact to what I'm talking about, it's really just at one point, and it's at the point where this sense of subject-object division in consciousness is illusory and vulnerable to investigation. And if you investigate it at sort of the right plane of focus, you pick the analogy you want from, whether it's, setting up the optic blind spot experiment in just the right way so that you can see that, it's actually not, the data is not there. Or, the bistable percept is great because, when you see one of these images, like the vase face diagram, or the Dalmatian, that looks like just a mess of dots, and then you see the image of a Dalmatian dog pop out. Once you see it, you really can't unsee it. I mean, like once you have the requisite conceptual, anchor to it, then every time you look, you're going to find it again, and it eventually becomes effortless. And that's what ultimately meditation is. I mean, this kind of meditation, you ultimately learn to recognize that there's no separation between you and your experience, right? There's not the experience on the one hand and the self on the other. There's just experience, right? There's just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, feeling, proprioception, add whatever channels of information you want to that. But there's just the totality of the energy of consciousness and its contents. And it's not that you're on the riverbank, and this is how it can seem in the beginning, even when you're practicing meditation fairly diligently. It can seem like you're on the riverbank watching the contents of consciousness flow by. And meditation is the act of doing that more and more dispassionately. So you're no longer grabbing at the pleasant or pushing the unpleasant away. You're just kind of relaxing and in the most non-judgmental frame of mind, just witnessing the flow, right? But if you're doing that dualistically, you feel like the meditator. You feel like the subject aiming attention. And so now you're on the riverbank watching everything go past. But the truth is, you are the river. There is just experience itself. You're not on the edge of experience. And everything you can notice is part of the flow, right? And there's no point from which to abstract yourself away from the flow, to stand outside it and to say, okay, this is my life, this is my experience, this is my body. Yes, you can do that. I mean, those are all just thoughts, but that's more of the flow, right? And so there's a process by which you would eventually recognize that there's no distance between you and your experience. And again, you can wait for those moments in life where experience gets so good or so terrifying, or it's just so salient, right? Your amygdala is driving so hard. I mean, so you're in a war and you can't think about anything because the enemy's shooting at you, and this is the most thrilling video game you've ever played in your life, and your life is on the line. Or you're at the peak of some athletic event where there's just, you don't know how you're doing the things you're doing, but it's all happening automatically, right? But those are 1/100th of 1% of one's life, and what I'm calling meditation is a way of simply understanding the mechanics of attention, whereby you are denying yourself that unity of experience so much of the time, and recognizing that that's it's based on a misperception of the way consciousness always already is.